Today, we're looking at my 1961 Lotus Super 7, and yes, it's a replica. If you don't recognize the Lotus version, you may have seen the Caterham version, the modern variant, on shows like Top Gear. It started life as a 1979 Toyota pickup, some department store clothing racks, and over the course of 9 months, I transformed it into a fun, street-legal sports car. My journey began in 2015 when a friend handed me a copy of a book titled Build Your Own Sports Car for as little as 250 pounds and Race It by a gentleman named Ron Champion. His exact words were, "I'm never going to build one, but you should." I quickly dove into the book on how to build a low-cost roadster, a play on the Lotus name at a reduced budget. I quickly realized not only how out of date, but also how out of country the material was. The donor car specified in the book was a Mark I or Mark II Ford Escort that wouldn't pass inspection and could allegedly be purchased for about 25 British pounds. Here in the US, we never had rear-wheel drive Escorts, and you definitely weren't getting a running one for the equivalent of 35 American dollars. Naturally, I turned to the internet for answers. Here in the US, it seemed these Locosts were primarily built from either a Mazda Miata donor, or if it was made purely for track use, a Hayabusa. Since motorcycles don't have a reverse gear, I ruled out the Hayabusa and looked at Miatas. The problem was, and really still is, any running, driving Miata is $3,000 to $5,000, which seemed like a lot for a donor car, and I really wanted to keep this in the low-cost spirit. So I went back to personally familiar territory, the Toyota mini truck. I had owned a few of them and was familiar with the ins and outs. I knew the two-wheel drive models had dual AR and front suspensions, and with disc brakes, 4-cylinder inline engine, manual trans, and rear-wheel drive, it seemed logical to me. And everybody knows that the body on a Toyota will rust away long before the drivetrain dies. Craigslist turned up this gem with a 2.2-liter 20R engine and a 5-speed transmission. I was sold. In typical Toyota fashion, they drove the entire 3.5 hours home without a single issue. After tearing into the donor truck, I began working on the chassis. A common variant of the Locost was known as the McSorley 442, the chassis being 4 inches longer, 4 inches wider, and 2 inches taller to accommodate larger drive lanes and larger people. This was key, because the low-cost book plans called for a fixed low-back seats built into the chassis and a much smaller drivetrain. I wanted adjustable buckets, and my drivetrain was massive by comparison, larger than a Miata also. The chassis, believe it or not, made entirely of scrapped clothing racks. That's right, from a department store. Why? They were free, and this is supposed to be a low-cost project. I was determined to keep with the low-cost spirit and use as much from the donor as possible. Brake master cylinder, clutch master cylinder, I even modified the gas pedal and reused it. I did have to buy many things, as the Toyota truck didn't have rack and pinion steering, so an aftermarket manual Mustang rack was purchased, and the radiator is a half size from a Honda Civic to fit inside the nose cone. The roll bar hoops are shock hoops designed for off-road trucks and Jeeps. The front spindles, hubs, and brakes, they're all from the Toyota pickup also. The 8-gallon fuel cell doesn't sound like a lot, but it's plenty to have fun with. The instrument panel is flat aluminum and holds a 6-pack of universal gauges from Speedway. Removable steering wheel meant I could get in and out easily. The hood is made entirely of fiberglass. I glued up some foam, carved it to shape with a die grinder and sanding discs, and laid it up with fiberglass. Kind of a pain to remove, but not impossible. The fenders, trailer fenders, and the remainder of the bodywork all started as flat aluminum with simple curves, brake bends, and some bead rolls. I even fabricated a small storage trunk to hold tools and other supplies. After I started dabbling in autocross, I upgraded to some modified Kirky seats, widened the track by 5 inches. The rear axle was swapped for a Dana 35 from a Jeep Grand Cherokee with 354 gears and a limited slip. I made new control arms up front with improved anti-dive geometry and modified a VW Beetle sway bar. Widening the track opened up my choices in wheels, so I upsized to 17-inch aluminum wheels and some stickier Toyo tires. The front fenders didn't fit with the new wider Toyos, so I ditched them and I'll probably never worry about another set. The question that everybody asks, is it fast? No, not really. In stock form, the 20R, according to Wikipedia anyway, was good for 97 horsepower. I later on swapped the block for an early model 22R The 20R is 2.2 liters and the 22R is 2.4 liters. The early 22R blocks, like I have, has raised top pistons to increase the compression ratio. With the overbore and the custom header and a comp cam, we're still talking about 100 horsepower. The carburetor is a Weber DGES 38mm synchronous carburetor. Keeps the wiring really simple and provides plenty of power for this level of performance. Well, that's all for now. I'm sure I skipped some important stuff, so feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And here's a quick sneak peek of what I'll cover next time. Turbocharging the carbureted 20R 22R hybrid and running it on E85. If you want to see that video and all the other stuff I'm working on, be sure and hit that subscribe button. See you next time.